Hi, folks. Andrew here. Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. Got another great interview coming at you here live in a second. I guess pre-recorded live. And if you're watching this, sorry about the little sunlight right here. That's just part of the deal. The time of day I'm doing this, totally my fault. So it'll go away in a few minutes. So don't let that distract you. If you're listening to this, you don't know what I'm talking about. So that's fine. Hey, you can find all kinds of stuff. Websites, topfitnessstrategies.com. You know all the deal. Fantastic. All right. Let me introduce my guest today. His name is Terry Linde from Destiny Management. He's also the president of Destiny Management LLC and has been involved in the fitness industry for over 30 years. He has worked in clubs, owned clubs, and developed his own personal training and nutrition systems. He has a Bachelor of Science in Physical Education with a minor in business from Washington State University. He has been an instructor for the World Institute Training Schools, WITS, certification programs. He's also been the director of the personal training program at Ashmead College Northgate. He carries certifications in exercise physiology through ACSM, which is the American College of Sports Medicine. Is a certified personal trainer with NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and WITS, World Instructor Training Schools, and is a certified strength and conditioning specialist through NSCA-CSCS, National Strength Coaches Association. That's a lot of stuff right there, folks. He's worked with people of all ages, backgrounds, and goals. Terry has written and published 4 books: The Final Edge, Look and Feel Your Best; The Final Edge, Peak Performance; The Final Edge, You Are What You Eat; and The Final Edge, Iron Athlete Training Journal. His ideal workout combines strength training, cardiovascular conditioning, core, speed, and agility work while maintaining a good range of motion and flexibility in a periodized format specific to person's goal and capabilities. Whew, that is a mouthful. And now you can also say you are a guest on Top Fitness Strategies. Welcome, Terry Linde.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I know and Terry, this is the first time you've heard me. You probably laughed as I was going through this. The worst part, and I hate to even say this, the worst part of my interviews is me reading the bio, because I try to get tongue-tied and I try to say everything just perfect, and no doubt I always mess something up. So correct me if I messed anything up there. If not, we're going to go on, but I appreciate you being here. Did I mess up anything really bad? Okay,
nope,
so perfect. All right, fantastic. Now, just to make sure everybody's under the understanding here, I say you're the president of Destiny Management LLC. That is, if you want to go to the website, it's www.destinymgmt.com. So it's not Destiny Management, it's
Correct.
Destiny MGMT. Okay, we'll go into that. Now today, what we're going to talk about, we're going to focus on nutrition, fitness and nutrition mastery. And you also have a course in that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So before we get into all that, Terry, if I didn't, whatever I didn't hit on, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Well, you highlighted my background really well. So I have been involved in the industry for over 30 years. I started, went to college with owning a gym in mind. And when I got out of college, the gym that I was working at, personal training was just starting in its infancy. So I developed the personal training program for the gym and then went out on my own and kept it going all these years. But I've worked with thousands of people over the years, and I enjoy helping them lead a higher quality of life with fitness and nutrition, giving them more energy, staying away from injuries, allowing them to play with their kids, enjoy their hobbies and such as injury risk-free as possible, and keep their strength going longer in life. I've worked with people now, when I first started, a couple clients all the way through. So I've seen them start when they were like in their mid 40s, and I've worked with them all the way up through now into their 70s and 80s. So I've seen the progressions and what differences good fitness and nutrition program can make in their life.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome, because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about was different age groups. Of course, me being in the industry, you've been in the industry, we understand this stuff. It's just old hat to us. But somebody who is watching or listening to this for the first time and saying, "Hey, I kind of like these two guys, these two good-looking guys on screen here. Let's hear what they have to say." So, fitness and nutrition is different for, let's say, a 35-year-old versus a 55-year-old. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and it can mean many different things for different people depending on their conditioning level and their goals as well. But age is definitely a factor, yes.
Okay. All right. Now I focus on the top fitness strategies, my brand. I focus on the fitness over 50. Feel better, look better, gain some confidence. I tell people all the time, if your goal is to show off your body on stage, which is a fantastic goal to have, I'm probably not your guy to listen to because that's not the way I train. There's other people that do that, and I've interviewed them, and I can turn you on to it. So a question I would have for you: if somebody comes to you and said, "Hey, Mr. Linde, I want to focus on getting more fit than I currently am, but I also want to focus on showing off my body on stage, whether it be bodybuilding or for the ladies figure or anything of that sort." There are uh, completely different ways to train and nutrition for those two. Is that right?
There are different, let's say, yes, different strategies. I started off way back in high school and college with bodybuilding. So I
Okay.
know that end of it. And the training principles, so I will say the training principles have to be followed a lot stricter with nutrition and this, the strength training to be able to reach and achieve those goals, to get onto stage, to look your best, and be the largest possible and the leanest possible at the same time. And it's not
Okay.
necessarily healthy what you're going to be doing for those things, but a person does not have to train like that to have enough strength to support their hobbies, their habits, their lifestyle, and
I
have enough
agree.
energy to be able to live a higher quality of life. So
Hmm.
the principles and the foundations, I'd say, would be similar, but there's a lot of different offshoots from those principles and how you'd
Oh,
adapt
absolutely.
them for different people, different age groups and such.
Okay. All right. All that being said, so let's say, and I'm just going to give you a couple of scenarios here. Let's say somebody 55 years old comes to you and say, "Hey, Terry, I just want to lose some weight. I get out of breath bending over and tying my shoes. I get out of breath trying to play with my kids or my grandkids running around. What's a good basis for me to start nutrition wise? Well, let's worry about the working out later on, but where should I start nutrition wise? Or is there a place where you start everybody? I understood that everyone is different. I get that. You and I both get that. But somebody who doesn't get that, would you recommend they do something different with their eating style, what they eat, their eating habits, all of the above? And I hope I'm phrasing this right. You understand what I'm trying to ask here?
I think I'm understanding correctly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I try and keep the nutrition to three basic principles for me. So I try and set up their calorie level for their
Okay.
lean body mass and their activity and give them the correct calorie level. So if somebody's burning 4,000 calories, I would, if they want to lose body fat, then I would set them up on 3,500 calories. So there's a 500 calorie deficit, for
Okay.
example. If they wanted to gain the maximum amount of muscle possible and not worry about losing weight or body fat, I set them up on about 150 calories more per day than their maintenance. So if we're using 4,000
Okay.
as that example, I'd set them up on 4,150. So depending on the person, I set up the calorie level correctly. And by far, 95, 99% of the people that I work with do not eat enough to support their metabolism. They've already been
Okay.
dieting and they're at like 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 calories. So
Hmm.
getting them, assessing the correct calorie level, setting realistic goals with them for where they should be, and trying to build up their calorie level to get to the correct calorie level for their metabolism and their goals would be my first step. And then I try and
Okay.
work with them on spacing the calories out throughout the day. So trying to eat at least every 3 to 4 hours. So if they're eating, so they want to be eating at least 4 meals per day, if not 5 or 6, depending on their calorie level. So trying to work
Okay.
out the spacing so they're not going too long between meals. And then one thing that I do believe in that not everybody does is the fine tuning of the ratio of protein, carbohydrate, and fat. So there's a certain
Okay.
ratio I believe that works for a certain body. It's not one ratio for everybody, but it's finding out the correct amount of protein, carbs, and fats that works well for a person
Hmm.
for their genetics. And the way I do that is based on the satiety or fullness after a meal. And um, their energy levels. So if you've ever eaten a meal or known somebody who's eaten a meal and they want to fall asleep right after the meal, like 5 to 10 minutes, they start yawning and getting groggy and falling asleep. Okay, that has to do with the hormones, insulin and glucagon, but what controls that at the meal is the amount of protein, carbohydrate, and fat. So I work with them to adjust the ratios, and once they find their ratio, then we keep that, and that stays with them for the rest of their life. But I'm trying to educate them on that. It's a fine-tuning principle. The biggest thing is calorie levels and then the spacing of the calories. And that's what I would work with on everybody, no matter what their goal and no matter what their age.
Wow. Okay. It's almost like you read my little cheat sheet notes here I have, because you're hitting everything I was going to ask you about. So which is a great segue. if you've watched or listened to any of my stuff in the past, the segues are way off the beaten path here, but you're hitting everything right here. So counting calories. All right. You and I, we have different philosophies with this. You're a lot more educated with this stuff than I am. I do not count calories. And here is why. Not that I'm against it at all, because I think it's a great thing to do. It would just drive me insane in my personality to start weighing everything, to get what this portion is, get what that portion is, to do this, to do that. Drive me insane. That's just my personality base. I'm not that, what I consider hyper-focused. I have very good friends in the industry who I've interviewed before as well. He's the total opposite of me. He is Mr. Every grain of rice, he has to calculate how many calories are in it. Again, that would drive me insane. How would you deal with somebody like me? Or would you even say, we can't work together? Which is fine. But how would you deal with somebody like me who doesn't? It's not that I'm against it. Again, it just drives me nuts. How would you deal with that?
No, you're by far the majority of the people that I would work with. So the counting of the calories and counting each grain of rice and such, that would be applicable for, say, like a bodybuilder who wanted to get on stage. You have to be much more strict and specific with them.
I agree. Yes.
But
yes.
For somebody who's just after losing body fat, for example, as their main goal, I need to know what their calorie level should be at so that I can make the best recommendations. So I do give them that knowledge, but I'm not making them track everything that they eat or counting every single calorie and such. I try and educate them on the principles. So if I know that they're supposed to be eating 2,000 calories, and then they're going to tell me what they eat, I would like to try and get them to write it down for one day and get the amounts, if possible, like a half cup of this, half cup of that. But if not, sometimes they take a picture of a meal, so I can see kind of the portion sizes or just get an idea. And then that gives me a really good idea of where their calorie level is at currently. And then I know where they're supposed to be for their metabolism. And then I can make the recommendations on if they're at the correct calorie level, if they've been eating too little, too much, or such. But how your clothes fit is the best indication for if you're gaining body fat or losing body fat, and measurements also. So there's a lot of different tools that I use to get the information in, but I'm not making somebody track the information every single day. That's too much. Even if you're a bodybuilder, it's too much year round. So you'd only do it for a period of time.
Okay. Well, that understood. All right. You also mentioned you recommend somebody eat every 3 to 4 hours a day, something of that sort. There is I don't want to say it's a fad by any stretch of imagination, because a lot of people live by this philosophy. Good, bad, right, wrong. I'm not debating that one way or the other. But what is your understanding of intermittent fasting? And is it something that you subscribe to, don't subscribe to? How would that fit into your philosophy of nutrition?
It's not something I would subscribe to year round for the rest of your life for somebody. I do think it has a place for people maybe to get started and get their body and metabolism kicked into gear. I believe, as in a general concept, when most people sleep, ideally they're getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep at night. And then that's kind of an intermittent fasting type program, because you're not eating while you're sleeping. So you're going for a period of time without food. What I've learned in school is that for your metabolism, your body's stomach empties after about 4 hours. And there's no 100% magic to that number. Some people it might be 5, some people 3,
Right,
and
right.
it does depend on what you eat as far as how it digests and how quickly. But 4 hours on average. And then at that point, your body doesn't know that you can just go to the store or a restaurant or grab food. So it thinks that it might be starving. And its
Okay.
response to that is to release enzymes and promote fat storage. So to keep away from that aspect, I try and get people to eat something about every 4 hours. And it doesn't have to be much. It could be like a half a glass of milk or something, just something with a little bit of calories. It could be a latte. So
Okay.
just to keep the metabolism going and burning so your body doesn't think it's getting into starvation mode. Now, on the flip side of that, there are benefits in starvation mode that certain hormones will start working a little bit stronger. So maybe periodically you do something like that, but not day in, week in, month out for the intermittent fasting.
Okay. Now I don't want to hound on fasting or anything else, but this is another thing that I put on here. And I'm asking everybody this now because I did it at the beginning of the year, and for me, I felt great with it. I did a 3-day water fast, a 72-hour water fast. And at the end of that 72 hours, I felt like I was going to jump through the roof. I had so much energy going on. Why I didn't continue it, I really couldn't tell you. I guess maybe I was looking forward to eating again, I guess. But do you, I guess, I don't know. But I had so much energy. I mean, I was working out during the whole process. And that last workout I had at the very end of it, man, I was just going. I wanted to do it again. I couldn't believe how much energy I had. Did it help me out? I don't know what it did health-wise, benefit-wise to me. I just know I was full of energy at the end. So my question to you is, do you recommend any kind of water fast at all? Again, not trying to downplay it, upgrade it, or anything of that sort. I'm asking everybody I interview now because I think it's fascinating, the different philosophies out there. And I don't think there's a philosophy that's right or wrong or good or bad. Everyone has their own personal philosophies with this. So long question short, are you a fan of water fast or doing any kind of water fast or no?
If there was any type of fasting, I would go more something like with a juice fast or a cleansing that way. But I'm not against a water fast. I do think like if we were working together and you came to me and said you did that and you got those types of results, then it sounds like for what you did, your body liked it and it gave you a good response for that period. Now, if you were to keep doing that, let's say every week, my opinion would be that you get diminished results and eventually you're going to get sick or injured because you're not giving your body what it needs regularly through the week. But for that time period, I think it sounds like it worked really well for you. So maybe your body does need that periodically, like once or twice a year, or once a quarter or something like that. And you get benefit from it.
Okay. Now I have an Italian mother, and if you know anything about Italians, you have to eat. And when she heard I was not eating for 3 days, she was, I was getting phone calls every other hour. It seemed like, did you eat yet? Did you eat yet? Do I need to come over there and feed you? That's Italian mothers for you right there. So that was interesting. Now, if I do it again, I'm just not going to tell her. The phone companies won't be happy because they don't have to charge. But a whole different thing there. Now, you mentioned doing like a juice fasting or something like that. I want to get away from fasting. I'm not going to ask you that. My question is going to be about fruits and vegetables. I particularly like vegetables, and I follow a philosophy that, eat your proteins, fats, and carbs in proportionate wise for what you need. But when it comes to vegetables, man, just eat a ton of vegetables. The more vegetables you eat, the better you're going to be. Now, if that's obviously you study more about that kind of nutrition more than I have. I'll freely admit that, based on everything that I read earlier. So are you a fan of eating a lot of vegetables, or do you portion your vegetables as well? And we'll talk about fruits coming up as well.
If you were using your vegetables for your carbohydrates, I would still portion it into the percentage of the ratio that would be for your particular body. However,
Okay.
to eat that many vegetables is probably not realistic. I don't think you can eat too many vegetables. You're not going to get that much carbohydrate or calories if you're eating vegetables. And there are some exceptions, like carrots are higher. But no, you won't. You would fill up way before you could eat too many vegetables to get too many calories. So yeah, fruits and vegetables, I agree. Kind of unlimited. And we do have a diabetes program also. And a lot of people with diabetes think that they can't eat fruits. And I disagree with that personally. So fruits and vegetables, yeah, no problem.
Now, I interviewed a couple of years ago someone who was a sugar doctor. She has her PhD in sugar. I call it sugarology. It was a running gag we had during the time. And she was saying when we talk about fruits contain a lot of sugar. So you might want to back off on the fruits a little bit. Be very careful with how you do that. I'm not saying, again, right or wrong, good or bad, personal philosophy, honestly. I like fruits. I like vegetables more than fruits. My favorite food is a pear. I have a big pear tree outside. I'm eating pears every day now, which is fantastic. So you said you can't eat enough vegetables. You said, do you have that same philosophy with fruits?
Pretty close. They do have more sugar, but the sugar in fruits is called fructose. So fructose is very low on the glycemic index. It's not high. So it does not spike your insulin levels like table sugar or something like in a candy bar or processed sugars. So the fruit in there, fruit is going to be higher in calories than vegetables because they do have more sugars. But the sugars are just carbohydrates, and your body does need X amount of carbohydrates per day based on the calorie level that you need and so on. So fruits are a good way to get that. You won't be able to get enough carbohydrates for the entire day if you just ate vegetables. You wouldn't be able to eat enough. Most people wouldn't. I shouldn't say you couldn't eat enough, but most people wouldn't because they would just be too full and you'd have to eat too many. So eating fruits with the vegetables, I think, is a good way to get your calories and your carbs. It's a non-processed way of doing it. And when I do say fruits, that's a whole fruit. So it's not like your dried cherries or dried fruits that are more concentrated and have sometimes a lot of sugar added, processed sugar.
So you're talking like an apple or a pear, like I mentioned, or a banana and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Okay. Now, all that being said, everything that we talked about now, the calories, the fruits, everything else, do you recommend supplements? It's a straightforward question. Do you recommend supplements? Again, not a good, bad, personal philosophy here. I happen at this point, I do not take any supplements. Again, not that I'm against it. It just drives me nuts again to figure out what I need every day. That's just my personal philosophy. What do you think about supplements?
So vitamins and minerals are the catalysts for everything that happens in your body. Mm-hmm. So your body needs all of the vitamins and minerals. It rarely needs a singular nutrient unless there's a deficiency. So a good base level multivitamin and mineral, nothing that's super high dosed in any of the ingredients, but an overall general multivitamin and mineral, I do believe in because you're not guaranteed of getting that in the food that you buy. It depends on the shelf life and the processing and those types of things. So just kind of as an insurance policy. And then one other supplement that I like for an insurance policy is essential fatty acids, because most people don't get enough essential fats from nuts, seeds, and oils. They get more saturated fats that don't have the essential fatty acids in them. So just to supplement so that you're getting that base level. And then periodically people do develop deficiencies based on stress or other lack of sleep, other factors that might be happening in their life. So periodically, like up in the Northwest, for example, up in Washington State, during the winter, there's very little sunshine. So a lot of people do get low or deficient in vitamin D. So for a couple months during the winter, it might be applicable to supplement with vitamin D, but not year round, that type of thing. So yeah, for a particular person, I do believe in nutritional supplements, and basically just a good multivitamin and mineral as a base insurance policy.
Oh, Interesting. So, all right. Now, before we run out of time, because I only asked for a half hour of your time, and we're quickly coming to it, believe it or not, I have a couple other questions for you. But before we do, tell us about the programs you had. You have a fitness and mastery program over at the site destinymanagement.com. But also you can find these folks, and I'm going to give a plug here, topfitnessstrategies.com/destiny. Check out the program. But tell us about your fitness and mastery, fitness and nutrition mastery program. Tell us about that.
Basically, what I'm trying to do is take everything that I've learned over the last 30 years, excuse me, and put it into a course. So everything that I would help teach a person that I'm working with personal training as a client goes into this course with information. And then it's also a customized program. So I help a person customize their nutrition program as well as their fitness program to make sure that it's correct for their system. If they have injuries, bad knees, backs, whatever it might be, the program's set up to safely get them towards their goals. And it's a 12-week course.
Is this a one-on-one course, or do you take it with the group, or how does it work?
No, it's a virtual course. So they can sign up and take it, and they can download the information and watch the videos, webinars, whenever fits into their schedule. I work with a fitness app, so their nutrition and training program is set up within the app. They have access to me to contact anytime with questions via text within the app or email. We can set up Zoom calls or Skype calls if needed to cover things in more detail, or if they have more questions. And then if they did want an actual training appointment, I can do that virtually as well. But it's all within the course.
Okay. So, and so this course can be taken anytime. So for instance, if I joined the course today and Joe Lunchbucket in 2 weeks decides to do the same course, he wouldn't join in with me. He would start at his own pace, or is you said a 12 weeks course. Just make sure. So it's not every 12 weeks. It's whenever you want to start it, correct?
It's whenever you want to start it. Yes. So the training and the fitness and nutrition program is set up for 12 weeks. That's where that time frame comes from. So it's for a 3-month period to be able to make adjustments to the program and adapt it to get it set up for somebody. But the educational material can be taken anytime. So it's not a course that only runs once or on a certain day or week. So each individual can start it at any point and finish it at any point.
Now you also have other courses on that page as well, just not the fitness and nutrition mastery. You have other courses as well, right? If I recall seeing it. Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. And we're not going to mention the other courses. If you're interested, please go to the topfitnessstrategies.com/destiny. You'll see courses on there. And we're not going to mention them because we're talking about fitness and nutrition today. Question for you, and I'm sure you get this a lot. I get this a lot, and I'm not a nutrition guy, but I get this a lot. You mentioned earlier that, proteins, fats, and carbs are 3 of the main building blocks that you need inside your body. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Is there a magic formula of how much protein, how much fat, how much carbs you should consume on a daily basis?
I don't believe one answer for everybody. There is, but it's individualized. So it would be based on your total calories and then what ratios work best for your system.
Okay. So I bring that up because, and I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it before. You go to a website or you go to somebody's video and they'll say, you should have this much percentage of proteins, this much percentage of fats, this much percentage of carbs. They just throw these numbers out there, but they don't know you from Joe down the street guy. So that's why I never could understand, how can somebody just fictitiously throw out these numbers? Because you have to know, first of all, the body composition of the person you're dealing with, also what their goal is. Right? Those two main things. Is there anything else you would need to?
Activity levels.
Yeah.
So you know how many calories they're burning.
Okay. Yeah. So folks. So you heard it here. Go ahead.
Example, certain endurance sports, depending on, you'd have to get into a little bit more depth as far as what energy cycle works with, whether it's anaerobic or aerobic, with or without oxygen, to know what fuel they're burning. But if they're in an event or activity or something that's going to burn primarily carbohydrates, then they're going to need a lot more carbohydrates around that time. But usually that is going to be increasing their total calories also. So not just changing the ratio or such, but for the most part, for anybody who wants to just lose weight, be healthy and such, there is going to be a certain ratio of the proteins, carbs, and fats that works for their system, but it takes some time to learn what that is. And it is not one ratio for everybody.
Good, good. And also, just because, and if I'm saying this wrong, please correct me about this. A Tour de France bicycle guy, let's say they burn 6,000 calories a day, and I'm just throwing out a number I don't know. Those calories would be different than if a NFL lineman who burns 6,000 calories a day. Those would be two different types of nutrition intake, would they not?
Yes. And most of the difference would be their calories burn. If they both burn 6,000 calories, and let's say they had similar genetics, then they might be really close. But the calorie burn difference is going to be the, I believe so, yes. So if their genetics were the same and they were burning the same number of calories, then they would be following the same principles.
So what do you mean by their genetics being the same? And I bring that up because to me, somebody who's a Tour de France bike racer has a whole different genetic makeup than the NFL lineman. So what do you mean that their genetics are the same? Maybe I'll think about this totally off here. So can you help me out?
No, I'm not thinking of like fiber type, like fast twitch or slow twitch, anything like that. Where I learned it has to do with the nervous system. So some people, there's two main parts, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. So parasympathetic has more to do with digestion, going to your digestive organs. Sympathetic goes more towards your limbs. So kind of fight or flight. One takes you up, one calms you down. So if you're parasympathetic dominant, that means you have a lot more neural input going to your digestive organs to handle harder to digest items, which are your proteins and fats. Those tend to be harder to digest than carbohydrates. So those people genetically tend to do better with more proteins and good types of fats, essential fats in their diet, and less carbohydrate. Where somebody who's sympathetic dominant has a lot of neural input going to their muscles, but not to their digestive organs. So they don't handle proteins and fats as well, but they do better with carbohydrates. So that person would be more carbohydrate and less protein and fat. So that's what I mean by genetics. Okay.
All right. They started using those big words there. I was like, whoa, Terry, let's back off a little bit here. You're talking to somebody who doesn't use big words much here. So anyway, Terry, our 30 minutes are up. Thank you very much for being here. Are there any parting words you would like to say to people watching and or listening right now to this?
I guess the biggest thing for reaching any type of fitness goals is consistency. So make sure whatever program you follow, you're just consistent with it and you will get to your goals.
Man after my own heart. I say that all the time. Be consistent with it. All right, folks. This has been Andrew. Terry Linde, Destiny Management, DestinyMGMT.com or TopFitnessStrategies.com/Destiny. If you're watching this or listening to this and you're driving, don't take your hands off the steering wheel. Contact me. I'll get you in contact with who needs to be. If you want to contact Terry, I have a direct line to him as well. Appreciate it. Terry, my friend, thank you for being here. Again, DestinyManagement.com, TopFitnessStrategies.com/Destiny. Check it out. All the fitness and mastery programs that he has over there. Hopefully one of them is going to fit you what you need. And this has been fantastic. So Terry, thanks a lot for being here. So I'm going to sign off here. But folks, this is Andrew, Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. Until next time, this is Andrew and Terry.